So right behind these Lotuses or Loti that we've got assembled on the first two rows of the grid will be Grant Sherrin in the car number 1 on position number 3. The Alford car in 4, then 5. Miller in the ageing Evo 9, right alongside another four-wheel drive car, Lachlan Gibbons. So watch for that third row of the grid to jump away well. The four-wheel drive cars cannot be denied coming the start line, particularly on a standing start. They get away well. They've got good launch programs, and they really do jump nicely indeed. Shane Smollen in the number 38 there as well. He's on the next row of the grid. Looking forward to seeing how the experienced Shane can go with Thomas Muller in their 1M.
It was great to see Shane getting into Porsche again too at Sydney Motorsport Park at the last supercar round, and it was the mixed Porsche Australia and Porsche Asia round, and Shane getting a run there. He's been a stalwart of Porsche for a long time.
So here we go. We were up to Kyle Orford and in the Lotus, Jason Miller in the Mitsubishi Evo 9, Dimitri Agathos in the Subaru WRX STI, Thomas Muller, which I think is Shane at the wheel in the BMW 1N, Chris Lewis in the HSV VE GDS, then it's James Keane in the Volkswagen Golf RGT, and Brad Woods in the BMW 1M. Leading the field around. That's our top 10. 11 is Callum Jones. He'll be sharing that car with Colin Osborne. Chem Yusul, also in the Nissan Pulsar out of 12. James Brock in the MG6. Then Matt Thulis in the Mini JCW. Mark Griffith in the Toyota Echo. Scott Turner in the BMW 135i. Caitlin Hawkins in the rebuilt Holden VE SS. And the guy sitting right next to me loves the VESS, don't you, Tone?
I do, especially at the bigger tracks where they can open up and really show some power. This probably isn't the track that it gets its opportunity to really do its stuff.
Now, we didn't get the graphics right the way down to the bottom of the screen there. Sarah McSweeney, who will be Hargraves in the weeks to come there, sharing with Andrew in the BMW. Kyle Orban, watch that car, Class C car. They're starting out at 19th. Tim Lay and Beric Linton, who won at Queensland Raceway, and they've won numerous races already this year. In fact, coming into this weekend, they were championship leaders. And right next to them, down the back of the grid in 21st position, is Rick Bates. And we're down to Greg Rust.
I just caught up with Beric Linton before we go racing. He's in civvies, guys. He's not even in his race suit at the moment. Tim's going to start this one.
Yeah, first time for Tim starting the car, and just thought, get a yesterday, why not give him a go? And we know when the fuel point is, and I'll put my race suit on around then.
Just highlight that again. First time he started this race car. Is that right?
Yeah, first time, but we forget he's off the back of the grid, so he can't go too bad.
All right, he'll be good. Thank you.
There you go, glowing endorsement from your teammate right there. And, right next to those two cars, it's going to be interesting. Two A1 cars and two of the fastest of all time. Tim Lay and Rick Bates, both classified co-drivers, because car owners Beric Linton and Bob Pearson are sitting out the start. But these A1 cars, number 23 and number 33, are going to be absolutely ones to watch off the back of this grid. They will charge all the way through this field.
Yeah, cheers. It's been a tough weekend for that Mitsubishi Evo 10 of Bates and Pearson. They've brought it out of the cotton wool for another round.
They keep bringing it out, don't they? There's a couple of Porsches waiting to go for the product team, but they just haven't got them right, and they don't want to bring them out until they are. And I can understand that. You don't want to put too many Ks on a car if it's not right to race, particularly when you've got a couple of old axes like an Evo 10 that you can still win races with. There's no problem about that.
Jason Miller in the Evo 9 up there in 5th place. That's been performing well the last couple of rounds as well. Had a fantastic performance up at Queensland Raceway.
So the race has technically started at the start of the warm-up lap. The time started for the 2-hour race. So we're now at 1 hour and 56 minutes to go. This is actually the start of the physical race to get to the end of the 2 hours. Let's see how they get away. The Lotuses go well. The BMW is left standing there. Grant Sherrin seemed to be looking off into the middle distance there, not at the lights, but it's going to be Jim Policina. He's going to get pushed wide by Denyer. They'll be side by side. It'd be wise for Denyer to get out of this at the moment, because he'll get pushed wide. He doesn't. He stays with it. Jim Policina will have to run down to turn 3 on the inside, but not the advantage that Denyer's got. And he slides on through. Very aggressive start between these two. And I tell you what, if you stood beside the car, you could hardly even see Grant, as Jim Policina's well over 6 foot, and we know Grant. But so he has muscled out the big fella into turn 1 and 2, and then ultimately down into 3. The battle pack is forming up behind Tony Alford at the moment as they get down into turn 1. The black car now getting through. It's Dimitri Agathos Lachlan Gibbons at the wheel of the WRX. He's pushed through on the Lotus, and here comes Miller in the Evo 9 trying to get through, and it's Lillis as well in that big HSV Commodore.
We could say that we've got a plague of Lotus up the front with Denia Policina and Orford, all three Lotuses up the front of the field.
But we've got Lachlan Gibbons gone through.
Laurie Gibbons has gone through, so great work by him.
Berwick
to pick up a spot.
Berwick Linton has already found his way up into about 6th spot. Sorry, not Berwick Linton.
It's Tim Lay, isn't it?
Yeah, Tim Lay. Absolutely ripper opening lap there.
20th place to 8th place for Tim Lay. That is an amazing start after one lap.
Wow, that is a ripper. We know Tim is a strong man at the wheel. That's why Berwick keeps making sure he's got him under contract so he doesn't slip out from underneath him to another team. It's certainly been a strong part of his campaigns.
Berwick was worried about his start.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he got the start. He messed up the start, but the opening lap was a ripper.
Yeah, it certainly was.
Wow, look at that. He's gone through on Orford now. So Tim Lay, and you'd have to say in a class of his own.
And Shannon the next to get. So he is up to 6th place now. This could, well, gee whiz, we saw one of the great drives yesterday. This could be another. With Tim Lay going from 20th spot to 5th place in 1 1/4 laps.
There's absolutely no doubt that it's a strong piece of kit, the M3, because they led the championship coming into this round. They won the fight in the night. A tough race to win, but Berwick's won that before. This time he dragged Tim Lay along for the drive with him. Now I guess water starts to find its level at this point in time. When you're charging through the field, you find your way into your own class, which happens to be A1. 2 cars up in front. Grant Sharon down the inside of Lachlan Gibbons. The 2-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, turbocharged M4 gets through under brakes. Lachlan Gibbons tries to go with him. The BMW storms on through there, so it's an M4 and an M3. Goes through on the WRX.
So what an amazing start for this BMW M3 of Tim Lay as Grant Genia continues to lead ahead of Jim Policina. Grant Sharon, Tim Lay. In the 5th place, Lance Gibbons. Let's head down to Greg Rust down in pit lane. Rusty?
Just had a word to the Sherrin team, guys. As you know, I think Grant lost a number of positions off the start line. He hasn't said anything on the radio, but they believe the car bogged down at the start, and then he had a kind of second crack at it, bit of wheel spin, and away he went.
Well, he's gathered that all back up again. Thanks, Greg, because he's now back up into P3 on the road, and he's got Tim Lay monstering the back of him at this point in time. So he did get through on Orford, and he did get through on Lachlan Gibbons, and that's that car right there, the Nova Employment Full Gas Racing STI WRX. Our race leader in the green Lotus, and it's Jim Policina in the Mocom Parramatta Smash Repairs car. Here's the start. There's that BMW. The M4 gets gazumped by at least 3 cars. Goes with the HSV initially, but the HSV muscled it out, and I dare say on a horsepower race down into turn 1, pulled in front of the M4. Here's our 2 leaders. It got really willing at the start of a longer middle distance type production car race between those 2. Over the hill, Denia just trying to squeeze Jim Policina, and in the end he won that battle. And he actually had a second thought about that. You see the white tips of his fingers, he tipped it in, eased it, and then gave it the double tip in and went, right, oh, well, I've got this, better commit to it. So we go back to live pictures now, and we've got this battle for 3 and 4 on the race. An M4 versus an M3. Take your pick here, Tony. Which one do you think's got the requirements to get through? Do you think Tim Lay has got it on Grant?
M3's had it all this year, hasn't it? It's been the better of the 2, having a fantastic start at Sandown and backing that up also since that first round at Sandown Raceway. The Sherrin car has definitely been up there, up and about, but unable to take a win as yet.
And it is interesting because both teams, the Sherrin combination and the Winton Lay combination, have won championships outright as well in recent times.
Yeah.
So It really does put a question mark over how the race is just going to be run, how each individual driver reacts to the car underneath them and the traffic that they start to arrive on. We saw that happening at around about laps 6 and 7 yesterday, so it's not long before they start to mix it up amongst the other class cars.
And I go back to the conversation I had with Grant Shannons earlier on today, and he said, while we know that these Lotuses are just going to pull away from us on a tight and twisty track like this, we can't use our outright speed to get to where we want to get. What we need to do is maximise where we're going to finish in this race, and at the moment that's going to be third place. Having said that though, not too far ahead of him is Jim Pollicina. That gap only 1.5 seconds between the BMW M4 and the Lotus.
Just have a look at the body language that Tim Lay has been going with this at this point in time. Tim Lay's got to the back of the Shannons now, and he appears to be working with him. So the M3, the shorter wheelbase, it's about the same width and similar mechanical package, in fact, but that shorter wheelbase, it actually should be better at changing direction here at this track. Longer wheelbase, more of the coupe type of look for the M4, and that very handy little rear wing on the boot lid of that car as well. So
power-wise, similar?
Not a whole lot of difference.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of difference in the package that they both work with. And look at that. There's a big bit of smoke comes straight out of the back. Is it dust or smoke?
No, I think it was smoke from Pollicina. It was definitely a lock-up, I'd reckon.
Wow, that was a big amount. It went round wide there, but Grant Shannons going to capitalise on it because he has now just moved up from it being a good couple of seconds. Yeah. It's now visual. Now we can't even really get an accurate measurement on it, but you'd have to expect that Grant Shannons will start to swing on by.
Well, this Pollicina car is definitely different to the car we saw yesterday that Ryan Simpson was in. Doesn't seem to have...
Yeah, but if you remember yesterday, they also ran to a program similar to what the Shannons did. They went, righto, let's race for a couple of laps. If we go with them, we go with them. But then they ticked off the boxes on lap times, and he pulls out and draws alongside. Let's see if he wins the drag race down into turn 1. Certainly the BMW is out wide at this point in time. So all it does is call Tim Lay into the battle as well.
And if we remember yesterday too, the fastest laps for that Lotus were actually coming towards the end of the race, weren't they?
They were. Yeah, that was Ryan Simpson really calling very, very deep down and showing all and sundry that wanted to take any notice that he's a talent to be well and truly respected.
As they weave their way through traffic, these three sitting currently in third, fourth and second place.
They tick off Sarah McSweeney. It's a debut race meeting here this weekend, so she's got some heavy hitters trying to charge on through. She's been very generous with getting out of the way of the contenders around her. Really should be applauded with her efforts.
Can I also suggest that she has actually learnt a fair bit from yesterday? Her fastest lap yesterday was around about the high 153s. She's now down to the low 151, so she's picked up 2.5 seconds.
It's a steep learning curve early on, isn't it? It really is a steep learning curve. You get into it and you start to improve pretty quickly. It's when you get 20 years into your career and you're lucky to get a tenth of a second here and there that gets a lot more difficult. Here's Johnny Goodacre, one of the great blokes in Australian motorsport in this BMW, the Easy Pos car. He's driven saloon cars. He's driven Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge cars. In fact, the second most amount of race starts for that category, being held by John Morris, is the number one, but Johnny Goodacre second.
Three abreast as they come down to turn 1. Grant Shannons gets in front. Tim Lay's not going to give up though. Jim Pollicina under siege at the moment. Through 1, through 2. Lay will take the inside run. Will he have enough to get up the inside of Pollicina? Up into 3, he doesn't.
Caitlin Hawkins going to get a quick reminder that the field's coming through any minute now. They go through. She stayed right out of the way. It's good driving there. No need to weigh in on that battle. Let them go through. Your battle is with other cars in your class, in the B2 class. So keeping up that battle. Now we touched on this yesterday. The first 9 cars are A1 cars.
Yep.
It doesn't take too long for some little gremlins to start to niggle into these really fast A1 cars. We start to see some B1s and some C cars coming through.
Well, unfortunately, it looks like there may be a gremlin that has jumped into the Mitsubishi Evo 10 for Rick Bates. He had got himself up as high as 9th place, but now in pit lane and working his way down, and I'm sure one of the boys down there will find out what that problem is for that Evo 10. But that is a shame for them. They started from the back of the field, worked up to 9th, obviously hadn't done as much as Tim Lay had done, who was only a position in front of him at the start. He's worked up to 4th. But in pit lane now for Rick Bates and Bob Pearson.
So Class A1 currently being led. Bit of debris on the track down there. Is it turn 10?
It's just a bit of foil because it looked like it was moving actually in the wind.
Yeah, we'll keep
So
an eye
it's
on
chip
that.
wrapper.
Yep. So Grant Daniel leading A1 to Grant Sharon now. Jim Policino has been relegated back. Tim Lay now attacking him. Lachlan Gibbons in 5th. Kyle Alford 6th. Miller in 7th in the Evo 9. Then it's Johnny Goodacre in 8th in car number 4. Shane Smolin in 9th. Nathan Callahan in the HSV leading A2. Then it's B1 with Rubus. And then we go to 2nd place is James Keane in the number 50. Then in Class C is being led by Kyle Orban to Colin Osborne in the number 31. Then Harley Haber in Class E to Will Brown in Class E and James Brock in Class E. So that's Pulsar, Echo and the MG6 with James Brock at the wheel. Then Alexandra Best leading Class D and B2 being led by Caitlin Hawkins in the VESS.
So there's our leading cars as we have 1 hour and 45, well, just under 15 minutes of a lap so far in this race. And Grant Denyer just doing it easily at the moment. Now 14.5 second gap between himself and Grant Sharon. The piece of debris still there. It's just off the racing line. But I would suggest that if it's going to stay there, there could possibly be a safety car for a clean-up, maybe.
It's well offline there. Let's hope that the wind moves it away and we don't have to have any interruption in the proceedings as Daniel completes lap number 8. Last time round was 15.3, 15.6 or 14.6 now.
There's the B1 battle.
Yep, number 29 there of Rubus with James Keane behind in this Volks Muller, Mertens and Keane Volkswagen Golf. Really coming along nicely, being developed very well. Swagger Motorsport do have a very strong presence. If you want to go fast, they've got the performance book for you to get rid of it and go fast. But staying well within the Australian Production Car Series rules as well. But, Rubus in the number 29 driving very, very well this weekend with Scott Turner, Rob and Scott teaming up well in the 135i. Here's Nathan Callahan, who's down in 10th place, and there's Caitlin Hawkins in the VESS. This is for 3rd and 4th on the road now with Jim Policino getting the power down ever so well. And that Lotus, it really does just power down nicely, which is what you need here at Winton. You've got to have power, but you've got to be able to use every bit of it. Get the car to transfer the weight to the drive wheels, whether it be front or rear, and get it done well. Here's a run as well. This is the number 17 Class C car. This is leading Class C. They're just starting to pick off some of the other cars in this field. Morris Finance leaderboard showing from 5th down through the field now. Lachlan Gibbons, Kyle Alford, Jason Miller. They're in the Subaru, the Lotus Exige, Mitsubishi Evo 9 and BMW 1N. That's Shane Smolin leading Nathan Callahan in position number 10. Rob Rubus. And there goes on screen now Colin Osborne slipping through on the BMW as well and having the Pulsar going very, very fast through there. Cameron Duncan in the lane.
You asked, guys, what happened to Rick Bates, so I thought I'd better ask him. Rick, you're out of the race. What's happened?
It started running. There was a leak actually when we let pit lane, which was probably a consequence of yesterday's coming together that Bob had. It hadn't done it before, but it started leaking power steer fluid, and a few laps in, the steering was a bit heavy, but it started binding up badly and making a lot of pump noise, so I just brought it in before we had a disaster like going off the road, or it was going to cease the pump and throw the belt shortly anyway, so I just came in.
It's a shame in these Enduros to go out so early as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think it was all a consequence of yesterday's coming together, but anyway, that's life. We'll have a fresh car for Eastern Creek.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Cam. Knew there must have been an issue, and there it is. Unfortunate for the pairing of Rick Bates and Bob Pearson. Their weekend here at Winton.
Real shame to
come to an end.
Come all the way down from Sydney to really have not a whole lot of racing for your weekend. In fact, only a handful of laps and pack up the whole show and head back up the highway. It's a long drive home when you've had a weekend like this. It really does it's amazing when you've had some good results. The trip home is just a joy. Everyone in the truck/car, whatever it might be, chatting away about the joys of the weekend. But when it's been a weekend like this, everyone just sits quietly, and it's a long trip home.
You mentioned Rob Rubis before. One major victory for him in his career, and that was at Bathurst 6 Hour 2 years ago in Class C when he teamed up with Todd Hazelwood in that race, and a great effort by them. And chewies, if you're going to win a race in your career, you might as well be Bathurst.
Yeah, certainly it's the diamond in the crown, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is. It's the place to go to and win races, that's for sure. A lot of drivers love Phillip Island, and why not? It's a magnificent track, but if you're going to tick off the big prize, it's what's something that happens at Mount Panorama, that is for sure.
So down into Class C, Harley Haber doing a great job in the Nissan, ahead of Will Brown in the Toyota Echo. James Brock making up the third car in that Class E category in the MG6. A 13-second gap between him and these two cars, which, as you can see, is a good battle. Only a second and a half between Haber and Will Brown.
Will Brown drove a really good race yesterday in the Echo. Flew under the radar, really didn't draw any attention, which was good, because drove very, very well. He's one of these guys that is taking absolute advantage of every situation that crosses his path. Car 10 leading the way on the Morris Finance leaderboard with Grant Denyer at the wheel. Car number 1, Grant Shannons, some 18 seconds back in the BMW M4. Then it's the Lotus Exige of Jim Policina, that one there. The Parramatta Smash Repairs Mocom Hog's Breath car, brought to us by Ravage Racing. They do a ripping job down there. Dean Lilly and his crew present a very strong car. We saw how strong it was yesterday in the hands of Ryan Simpson, and he's got back up onto the back of the M4 at the moment, not letting it get away. Tim Lay still hasn't got through on the Lotus of Jim Policina, but these three guys are running pretty much together, but it's Grant Denyer with a very, very strong lead. It amounts to about a 2 3/4 a lap faster than the other cars in his own class.
Yeah, Denyer continues to circulate around about the high 130s, his best lap of 133.1. And for Grant Shannons, it's a 131.26, his best lap, as he continues to circulate, probably around about the mid to high 131. So there is definitely a distinct margin between these two cars. Denyer a 131.31 that time round, as we await Grant Shannons across the line. And we'll give you an update on the difference just from that lap alone. But as you pointed out quite rightly, Daz, about a 1.5 seconds, and there it is again, 1.3 seconds. That last lap between Denyer and Shannons.
Yeah, this is a real lesson that the Simply Sports Cars team are doling out. Just Cuts crew that are leading this race. There's the Bruce Linton Bodyworks Body Shop M3. Tim Lay at the wheel, the Tony Lay Motor Group car off the back of the ripple strip. You don't want to do that too many times, let me tell you, Tim. You'll tear a tyre up. That's exactly how you do it. No matter how good Hankook make these controlled tyres,
right up the inside.
You disappear up the back there, off the back of the ripple strip. That will tear them off the car. And that was actually what they thought in the fight in the night that happened with the Green Lotus. Was that they disappeared off the back of a ripple strip, and it unseated the bead and then tore the inside edge of the tyre apart. And along the way, ripped all the ABS cables and bits of gear as well, all those ancillaries that you've got to have inside the wheel these days. But yeah, that was what they said happened there. No fault of the tyre. It was running over the back of the ripple strip, because it's raw concrete off the back of them. They're all nice and smooth where you're supposed to be hitting them, but if you go over the back of them, not good.
Caitlin Hawkins sees the back of the Shannons BMW and the Policina Lotus again, and also Tim Lay making his way through as well as they continue to round up traffic here in the main straight. Now A1 cars now 21 seconds behind leading car Grant Denyer, which does still have the gold logo fixed to the roof of it. It was placed there for the Queensland Raceway meet.
Well, I guess he's the reigning champion of the Gold Logie for 12 months, isn't he? Leave it there. In fact, leave it there for the whole time Grant's driving the car, I would say. Why not? Coveted award in the television industry. Good on him. Jim Pollicino looks to have a bit of fight left in him here. He's not letting Grant Shannons away with it. He's bouncing the BMW over the back of the curbs there as well, just to stay in front as we go to Greg Rust in pit lane.
Darren, I've just wandered up and had a word to the Simply Sports Cars team just in relation to the advantage that Grant Denyer has at the moment, and has there been any call to just ease off and maintain the gap? They said that he's doing such a good job at the moment. They have left him to it. They're not bothering him at the moment. And a quick word with Tony D'Alberto as well. Late yesterday in the 2-hour race, he had a problem with the drink bottle holder. And as you can appreciate, in a mini enduro like that, you need hydration, you need replenishment. And he couldn't reconnect it to get that drink bottle and to be able to use it toward the end of the race. They have fixed that for this afternoon's 2-hour extravaganza.
Thanks very much, Rusty. We've just seen a swap for second place in the race. Jim Pollicino's got, I've had enough. I want to get in front of this BMW. I don't want those turbo fumes in my face any longer. He pressured for about half a lap on the back of the M4 and streamed on through, coming onto the straight there, which is probably a bit of a risky call past the Lotus because the BMWs can hold their own there. Here it is. Under brakes, little slight lock-up, little nip up on the brakes there for the
tiny
Parramatta Smash Repairs Lotus, but nothing to really be too alarmed about. I guess we just keep that in the back of our mind. If that car goes in the pits and they go, hey, we need to pull that left rear off, it's being tortured. But the left rear here at Winton does not work as hard. The left rear does work very hard here at Winton, not as hard as the right rear. So this is our race leader. Yep. It looks poised, doesn't it? He's doing it very well.
Yeah, we heard Rusty say the team has not even sent him any instructions, they're just letting him go about his duties and do what he has to do, and he's doing that extremely nicely. 25 seconds now the margin between himself and the other Lotus.
And that spec that you've just read out there then is all that the team will be saying to him. Last lap, 1 minute 30, 25 seconds to next place. And that's all he needs. They'll be doing it in the straight as he comes down there. Don't get him confused. Don't feed him information that he doesn't need. As he might not jump on the radio Kimi Räikkönen style and say, I know what I'm doing, leave me alone. But you just don't want too much information unless it's needed to be fed to you while you're in the car. Just give yourself the time to race the car and the team give the vital information when you're in a straight line. Down to Cam in the pit lane.
Just following up on some of the things that are going on up and down the lane. Early on, we saw Jim Pollicino just dropping back off the pace of the front runners. I went and quickly talked to the team to see if there was any issue just after it looked like he dropped a wheel off as he headed into the back part of the circuit. The team said he hasn't done an awful lot of laps here this weekend, and his pace is quite a significant way away from Ryan Simpson. So watch for that car to start to move back up through the order when they do make that driver change.
Yeah, well, Jim has got through on the M4 in the last lap or so and has now got Tim Lade behind him because he's gone through on the M4 as well. Hasn't skated away, but he's been strong enough to be able to perfect the pass on car number 1. And he's doing it very, very nicely indeed. In fact, Grant Shannons is getting a little bit ragged there, trying to stay with these two. Let's see if Tim Lade's got the same car under him he had in the opening couple of laps of this race, where he charged from the back of the field up to 4th place as we go down to Greg Rust in the lane.
Still no movement as far as the Linton team is concerned. So Beric Linton is still in jeans and a shirt. He's nice and relaxed at the moment. He said they plan to, depending on safety cars, they plan to let Tim Lade stay behind the wheel of that BMW for as long as they possibly can. And if it all goes pretty straightforward with no safety car, expect Beric Linton to do the final 45 minutes of this race.
Yeah, that sounds like a very wise decision considering what he's already turned on for the team, hasn't he? Tim Lade coming off the back of the grid, and he's now currently sitting in 3rd place in the race. A really good drive there, and in fact, he's challenged Ryan Simpson's drive yesterday with that little drive through the field, hasn't he?
That was amazing.
Although, having said that, Ryan did that at the end of the 2-hour race, whereas Tim's jumped in fresh as a daisy and done the job. So we'll see how it transpires for the M3. Be really nice to see if that BMW can stay in contention with at least Jim Pollicino and battle it out right towards the end, because at the moment, with a 28-second lead, Grant Denyer is disappearing off into the distance, and these guys actually won't even know where he is on the track. Just to give you an idea, 2, 3 and 4 on the road are around Penrite at the water tower, and our race leader in the Green Lotus is working his way on the main straight now. So it's about half the Winton layout difference between those that battle pack in 2, 3 and 4 and our race leader Grant Denyer.
Certainly is, and we remember yesterday as well that they had pretty much round up the field by lapped the entire field up to the top 4 cars by the first hour.
The Evo 9 of Miller slowing out there at the moment. Jason Miller struggling there to keep going as we're watching the Class C battle with Colin Osborne and Chem Usul currently with the Renault Megane and the older Nissan Pulsar Triple S as we go down to pit lane.
Just been into the Shannons Rentals garage, guys, and Grant seems fairly happy behind the wheel at the moment. A little bit of traffic became a factor before, and just the way that Jim Policina dived down the inside of some of the traffic and to cope with it in terms of the mix-up in positions there. They're having a great battle in that group with Tim Lay as well, so no issues at the moment for that car. They think, again, like Berwick Linton, they'll try and run Grant as long as possible. It just depends on safety car, but the word from the team a moment ago is maybe 50-50 for each driver, an hour each.
Good on you, Rusty. We have some major issues for Jason Miller as he tries to bring this car back. It's either got no petrol or it's got no power, one or the other, but it is starting to pull up now, this Evo 9.
The Stokes Skis entry, car number 20, slowed coming up to turn 5 and hasn't been able to get it motivated again. And in fact, it seems to be going just ever so slightly. Is there a wobbling rear wheel? No, that's just the way the tyre is seated on the rim there, but this car just trickling along. There's no smoke, there's no fluid leaking from it, so you'd have to suggest there's some driveline breakage of some description.
I can tell
as
you,
we're just getting a position change here as well. Tim Lay's just run very, very wide. Policina's got through with him on the previous corner, and now Sharon gets through on him, so Tim Lay has just given up 2 spots in the matter of 1 straight and 2 corners. So I wonder what's going on there with the M3.
I can tell you that that car of the Evo 9 looked like it was moving faster on the TV than what it does on the track.
It does, doesn't it? And in the dying light yesterday and again on Friday. Here's this move again. The M3 getting wide. Driver error. And getting wide out in the dirt, bouncing around as we go down to Cameron in pit lane.
This is you see down here. I found Elliot Barber. Now, Elliot, you're wearing a race suit. You got race boots on. Are you racing this weekend?
No, I'm not racing. It's not a designated 2 driver, so obviously for us, JB will drive the whole weekend solo. But I am on the fire extinguisher, so very important job. So that's what I'm doing this weekend. So I've got all the gear, but no idea.
They found something useful for you to do, Elliot. Is that right?
Exactly, yeah. Fastest fireman in pit lane, mate.
All right, we'll be watching. Good luck.
Thanks, man.
Good on you, Camp. Thank you for that. 1:27 left on the clock. And that car of Jason Miller has just about come to a stop, I reckon, as it heads down towards the second last turn of the circuit. Let's head down to Rusty. What do you got for us, Rusty?
Tony, everyone has wandered out of their garage and they're watching that car slowly making its way down the track, and at the same time they're keeping a very close eye at pit exit, and just in case we might get a safety car. Some teams on standby to react in case we do. Doesn't look like that's going to happen just at the moment.
No, it looks like it's going to get around the last 2 turns and get himself into pit lane, but it'll be the most painful drive to pit lane ever.
I tell you what, if you'd planned to do a pit visit this lap, leave it for another lap, because that thing has not got a whole lot of momentum. It's got a little bit, but it's going to tie up the pit entry road for at least the next 40 seconds or so as it just crawls its way around. Let's have a look at the Morris Finance leaderboard. Grant Denyer leading the way.
From pit lane, we're being told a broken drive shaft for the number 20 of Jason Miller. You called it right there, Daz, and that will be the end of their day, one would think.
Yeah, look, you can get in there and get a drive shaft into it. Depends whether it's the front or rear as to how long.
Yeah.
The rear one's a fair bit involved. You can get in the front one your local Mitsubishi dealer will charge you 8 hours for it, but you can probably get it done in about 45 minutes at the racetrack. But that's something that they'll have to weigh up whether they're going to get any advantage out of it. I guess, getting into it and get the job done and get the car back out. By the look at the crew, they're going to get into it, aren't they? They look like they want to get this thing into the shed and back out on track. They're in a championship, so why not? Why not try and drag some points? They will get whatever they get for finishing somewhere down the field.
Well, he was driving faster than they were.
Tell you what, though, the crew look to have worn themselves out on the job down there. There's a couple of guys haven't run that far for some time. I would join that crew with them.
Cameron Van Duncan decided not to join in on the run, just taking it nice, easy.
Way too cool in those sunglasses to run like that. There's the car the cameraman's got down there. Car number 20A1, the bright orange and yellow car. Looks $1 million. Of course, this is the car we've seen John Bowe and Dave Wall race in the Easter races up there for production cars at the Mountain. Numerous drivers, Paul Morris springs to mind, that have driven this car, now in the hands of the Miller family, and both father and son, extremely good races there. So we look forward to still seeing that Evo 9 out there and scoring some good results. This is second and third on the road.
Still had Wall Racing written on the back of the wing.
I think they're still preparing it for them, actually. So that might be what's going on there. Makes sense. Wall Racing have got some amazing cars in their garage. A lot of them owned by the Wall family. Indeed, the sports sedan of Des and the old Tirana sports sedan, HCT sports sedan spring to mind. The Gagan Mustang as well they have in there, which they run at the Muscle Car Masters and some of those historic events.
Grant Shannons just getting his two right wheels into the dirt for the best part of 50 or so metres. There's the Evo 9 now jacked up, and an opportunity for the guys to get under and actually see how much damage has been done.
If you're calling an NRL game or an AFL game and you said they're all jacked up, that'd mean there's just about to be a bit of biffo. But in motorsport, it means the car's just coming off the ground, doesn't it?
Exactly.
So they look like they're going to get into it. That's good, and it appears as though it's a rear one. So that's a hard bit of work on a really hot race car as well. So they're analysing what they've got to do. Wheel off and start to dive into boxes and things like that to find, have we got a left rear or have we only got a right rear? What did we get when we bought this car? No, we've got everything. We've got two of everything. We'll find it. That'll be the conversation down there right now.
1:23 left on the clock, so that'll be interesting to see if they do go for a fix. The countdown will be on to see whether they can get it done before the time expires. So the Policina car, while it has got in front of both Sharon and Lay, only holding a margin of 1.7 seconds, so it hasn't streaked ahead as much as the other Lotus of Grant Jenny, which is now 32 seconds ahead in front.
Well, I guess the paranoia of the Simply Sports Cars Just Cuts green Lotus, of those guys being so paranoid about the fact that the Policina Simpson car has got a better handle than theirs. They've got out there and they've gone like a rabbit, haven't they? They've just taken off and gone, if they've got any advantage, we're going to get away from them and make sure they can't touch us at all. So that's what they've done. Word is that it sounds like they've done a differential down there. Cam's on the spot in the garage with the Stoke Ski Evo 9.
Is it?
Yeah, I've got Jason Miller here with me. Jason, looks like you're out of the race now.
Yeah, mate, blown diff. Heard a large bang just through the exit of turn 2. Lost all drive from there and pretty much rolled it back on the clutch. So, yeah, lucky to make it back.
Mate, such a shame too, looking so good.
Yeah, mate, we're going well. Just putting away, roughly 34 is all we can do around here. So we're sitting on a 34. It was all going good, but unfortunately, yeah, it happens.
Hard luck.
Thanks, mate. Ta.
Big weekend for Jason Miller. Drove all of yesterday on his own.
Yeah, no, look, he's done a ripping job. If he takes anything away from this weekend, don't take away the mechanical failure. Take away the fact that you've driven very well.
Yeah.
You've driven a really good race yesterday. Up until this point, you've driven a really good race. Maybe not push so hard so that the diff does break, but, these cars, you've got to push them hard. It's settling into a groove is just something you don't do anymore. You've got to be able to get up on the wheel and drive them hard. And I think we saw that with the development of the M4 and the way the Shannons went about that was they went, no, this has got to be a sprint race. We've got to run hard. We can't just nurse this car. If we're going to race this car, we're going to race it every lap.
So let's turn our attention back to the leaderboard, and we can tell you that Grant Denyer currently leads Class A1 ahead of Jim Policina and Grant Shannons. They're our 3 outrights at the moment, and actually our 3 outrights also for the round at the moment as well. Class B1 is Rubus ahead of Keane. Down to A2, Nathan Callahan there in the big Commodore that he shares with Chris Lewis. Cole Orban ahead of Colin Osborne in Class C. Alexandra Best in Class D. And Harley Haber ahead of Will Brown in Class E. Caitlin Hawkins, the sole B2 entrant here for this race weekend. Race 2 of the 2018 Jacuzzi Spas Australian Production Car Series, round 3 of the year.
Really seeing some good, strong fields in this year's championship. In fact, this is probably the lowest number that we've had across this series so far this year. Some strong numbers coming through. Really
40,
good to see.
47 or something at Sandown.
Yep.
And then
38 or something at
36,
QR.
38
Oh,
at
the
QR.
M4's gone to the dirt there, trying to get through on the number 29, the Thomas Muller driven car with, I think, Shane Smollen at the wheel there at the moment. Yes, it is Shane Smollen at the wheel of 29, taking evasive action and going onto the dirt there for Grant Shannons. And Tim Lay also had to take evasive action there because it looked like it was all going to bust loose in front of him. So drama on lap number 24 for these cars, fighting it out for the minors on the podium at the moment, and they literally are, because our leader is 33.5 seconds up the road.
Grant Shannons, that is the second time he's ventured onto the dirt in the last couple of laps. Let's have a look at the highlights of the race so far, and it was Grant Shannons who absolutely got bogged down at the start. It was the 2 Lotuses, that little bit of a tap through turn 2. They got through there in the end okay, and then Grant Denyer was the man that said, right, I'm having a dip here at 3, and got the outside line going and hasn't looked back since.
No, he really hasn't, has he? He's driven away from that point in time. Jim Policina couldn't match him for pace. Here is the guy, really, if Ryan Simpson took best on ground yesterday in the first 3 laps, it was Tim Lay that took the best on ground for this race. Unfortunately, these 2 cars, both Mitsubishi Evos, and 9 out of 10, are taking no further part in this race.
No, they're not. And there was a great battle for second between the Lotus of Jim Policina, the BMW M4 of Grant Shannons, and Tim Lay in the M3. And it was Shannons who got the position eventually. He did yield it back to Policina a little bit later on, as Tim Lay just gets a little bit sideways in his endeavours of trying to pass the Lotus as well. Speaking of sideways, there's a bit of sideways action for the Nathan Callahan Commodore. This is where Policina had enough of sitting behind the M4 and said, right, I'm taking second back. And he's done that, but not as successful as you would have liked, I would have thought. That gap now between Policina and Grant Shannons is down to half a second. And live shots again with our leader, Grant Denyer.
Really driving this Exige 350 Sport to the very, very ragged edge. He is, and he's all alone out in front. He set the fastest lap of the race, and in fact, the only one to plunge into the 1 minute 30s, and he's done it well, a 1 minute 30.3. The nearest to him is Grant Shannons with a 131.2, so essentially 0.9 of a second is the next fastest car on the track. And he's been ticking off the boxes, doing a fantastic run there. Tim Lay, of course, the 31.2. A big thanks to our statistician here in the booth, helping us out on Father's Day. Tony Shebeki travels with family on Father's Day.
And nice to have him around, young Mitchell.
So there's the leaderboard. Grant Denyer, Jim Policina, Grant Shannons, Tim Lay, Lachlan Gibbons, Kyle Orford, Shane Smollen, Johnny Goodacre in 8th. That's Rubus, Keane, Callahan, Kyle Orban, Colin Osborne, 2 Class C cars there, Orban and Osborne. Haber in the Class E car, leading Brown and Brock in Class E. Then it's Elizabeth Best and Caitlin Hawkins, Sarah McSweeney, and unfortunately Jack Miller taking no further part in this race. Jason Miller taking no further part in the Evo 9.
Jack Miller, of course, riding two wheels.
Yes.
Nowadays.
Yes, very well too.
He's not too bad actually on the Ducati.
Yep.
Not too many people can get the Ducati to do what they want it to do, but he is doing that in parts this year. We should mention the Auburn Brothers Racing entry. They had some issues this morning. Well, they had some issues out of yesterday's race with their turbo. Had to wait for the local car part, the local Repco store to open before they could finalise the repairs on that car and get it ready for the warm-up of this morning. They did eventually. Good work by them.
Yeah, and those guys travel from Bathurst.
Yeah.
So locals to Bathurst, and if you get a good look at the car, there's a lot of support on the car from various different businesses local to Bathurst. So that's a fair old trip. Come down the Hume, come down through Young, like all the fans do in October. We do the reverse trip going up to Bathurst for the 1000, and then again early on in the year for the 12-hour.
A lot of good things have been made in Bathurst, I think, including Gary O'Brien.
Gary O'Brien, certainly a Bathurst local. Yes, as we go down to Greg Rusty in pit lane.
I've just wandered into the Winton pit a moment ago. Tim Lay is fine, they say, but they kind of gave me a wry smile. I sense that the rear tyres on that car are gone, boys, and that he's battling a little bit at the moment. And obviously a safety car's not longer.
All right, so that's interesting, Rusty.
So it sounds like they're going to be playing out, waiting for a safety car to come in and put some rear bags on that. So maybe that really strong drive early on fried the tyres just a little bit too much. He asked a little bit too much from a little bit of wheel spin early on and has cooked them up. But we're only surmising, because if they're giving Rusty a wry smile, they're not saying yes or no, are they?
Anything. And but having said that, one would think that they're taking exactly the same attitude that Grant Sherrin was speaking about earlier and maximising the points that they get out of this round, knowing that they're currently leading the Australian Production Car Championship and need everything that they can to make sure that remains the way.
Well, the points offering is pretty strong. It's weighted to Grant Denyer at the moment, 240 for those guys. Won yesterday, leading now. Jim Policina 180. Of course, they got second by only 0.2 of a second yesterday. Then Grant Sherrin 144 and Tim Lay. And I guess Beric Linton there as well on 60. Lachlan Gibbons on 102. And Kyle Orford on 108. So they're doing themselves a favour, those guys, by continuing to lap and just getting those points back into it.
So Grant Denyer, our leader at the moment. 39 seconds the margin between Grant Denyer and Jim Policina. As Grant Sherrin remains 1.5 seconds in third place. And then Tim Lay in fourth. Lockie Gibbons down in fifth, doing a good job as well.
Bruce Linton Body Shop M4, car number 23 in A1 class. This is the car we've been talking about. And let's have a look at how it is performing. We'll be able to tell whether those rear tyres have given up the ghost pretty easy, and if we have a look at the back of that car, particularly through this sweeper, it'll be a pretty wild old ride for Tim if they're overcooked. Seems to be pointing in the right direction, but he's not exactly wringing the neck of it at the moment either. Last time round at 32, so his best time was a 31.1, so he's definitely eased off that frenetic pace he set getting through the field early on. The number 17 getting out of the way, that's Kyle Auburn, leading Class C over Colin Osborne. So they're 12th and 13th currently on the road, but Colin Osborne isn't really close.
Yeah, 4 seconds.
4 seconds back off the back of shot. There he is there in the white Renault. So the Renault Megane Sport has been a pretty good weapon in Class C of recent times.
Harley Haber also with the 4 second margin between himself and Will Brown in Class E. So that's another nice little contest between those two. Hasn't been the best of days for the MG6. for James Brock, currently down 17th place.
No, that's interesting. Maybe, I mean, Sandown and Queensland Raceway was good. Maybe the MG not so good at this sort of change of direction, rapid change of direction here. The cars in its class, body-wise, are a lot smaller, shorter wheelbase than what the MG is. The MG is quite the largest size car in that class, so maybe that's just a little bit, equates to a little bit of extra weight and trying to pull the car around through these corners. The Morris Finance leaderboard looks like this. Grant Denyer leads by 40 seconds over Jim Policina, with Grant Sherrin and Tim Lay in position 4. It's down to Cameron Vanderduncan in pit lane.
Caitlin Hawkins currently driving around in a VESS at the moment, having lots of dramas with that car from a braking point of view. I've got John here from the team who's going to explain what this used to be in my hand.
What that used to be was the front brake pad. Yesterday we had some. We thought we had pads that lasted the day, but about 20 laps from the end, our driver reported that we'd lost brakes, and we came in thinking, well, wanted to try and keep him out there for a while, see what was going. We noticed smoke, so we brought him in, had a look, and this is what we found. So we come down here, you can see that the caliper has actually, and the pad has welded to the disc. Yeah. So we've run out of pad friction material completely. And so that's what we found. So overnight, we had to make the trip to Melbourne to get new calipers and rotors. So we're a bit compromised today. We're struggling with brakes, but we're going to try and make it to the end, and that's what it's about today. Out there enjoying ourselves and try and make it to the end.
Good luck, Caitlin, out there. I hold the brakes hold, but not hold like that. Yeah. Rusty, let's go across to you.
Cam, I've just spotted a little repressure of some tyres for Berwick Winton, the new rubber that will go on that BMW once Tim Lay hands the car over to him. And it looked to me as though they put an extra PSI or two of pressure in those tyres. So whether that is a reaction to the fact that Tim Lay feels like he's got no grip out there at the moment, or in anticipation of a temperature drop here. Remember, it's 3:30 local time now. When we arrived this morning, it was about 2 degrees at Winton. It's beautiful when you're in the sunshine, but when you're in the shade, things really start to cool off. And we've only had an expected high of 13 degrees ambient. So maybe that repressure is in anticipation of a drop in temperature in the final hour of this race.
Good on you, Rusty. Thank you for that.
Couldn't agree with you more there, Greg. Rust. The ambient temperature, we felt it yesterday at sort of about 3 o'clock. Peak temperature at 14 degrees, 13 degrees today. It dropped back to 8 degrees pretty quickly. And that's we're in that phase of the day now. So yeah, the team down there at Berwick Linton's team, they're on top of it, reading the game well. They've been at it for long enough to know and understand that that's what you've got to do.
And you can see coming in from the north of the track those clouds over there, and they will cover the sun shortly. And that temperature, as you said, will drop. So a little bit of a touch-up from behind, from the 29. Rubus onto the back of Sarah McSweeney, and there's bits and pieces of that back of the car now just hanging loose. So I suggest she'll either make the call, she'll be told to come in, or she's coming in now. Yep, there you go.
The marked cars entered BMW. Let's hope there's no further damage. It's just a cosmetic thing and they can quickly trim that bumper off. The Race Fuels transporter just in the background there, one of the great supporters of the Shannons Nationals. We thank the Race Fuels crew providing all of the fuel for all of the categories. It's a tough job. A couple of blokes down there work very, very hard. Big shout out to Sean and Smithy and Mark Tierney.
One of the great supporters of motor racing in Australia.
Absolutely. Go to Supercars, Shannons National, Rally, all sorts of things. Here we go into there. There's Sarah McSweeney climbing out. A round of applause for her terrific job.
Yep, great job.
There goes Adam. Everything was going well yesterday until Adam got in the car and things started to go a little bit awry. It's a lot earlier in the race now with, I think she went into about an hour and a quarter yesterday in the car. He's jumped in. We haven't even ticked over that hour time yet. Still an hour and 6 minutes remaining in this race. But real...
back cosh at the front of the car.
It looks like, Matt, doesn't it? A real thrifty team, these guys. They're that thrifty that they've saved on stickers and on embroidery by putting Hargraves on the car and Hargraves on the driving suit as well. So sticking that back up, that's good. It's a bit of 100-mile-an-hour tape, or race tape as it's called now. Got to call it 100-mile-an-hour tape on Father's Day because that's what my dad knows it as. If you call it race tape, he just looks at you strange.
Yeah.
So, happy Father's Day, Dad. I think you'll be watching by now. Enjoys a bit of production car racing. And Greg Russ just keeping an eye on things going on there with the number 5 as it exits pit lane, the Navia Logistics car, and enters back onto the track now. Adam Hargraves at the wheel.
So a forced pit stop for that car, but the first car to effectively take a pit stop here and a driver change out of our field.
Nick Higgins working there for Mark Cars here this weekend. There's a guy who's been around at motorsport for a long, long time. Bit of Paul Morris motorsport work for him. And, well, there's a couple of Cirame driving suits, so there's a strong presence of the Paul Morris motorsport. That's Nick with the dark glasses on there. So, racing a bit of Excels himself in Victoria at the moment, so good to see him at the track calling the shots down there with the Mark Cars outfits. It's down to Rusty.
I'm with Sarah, who's just stepped out of the car. You're a little miffed because the damage to the rear only really happened on the in-lap, didn't it?
Yeah, I was just pulling into the pits and then I got bumped from behind as I was slowing down to come in. So hopefully it hangs on for the rest of the race.
Felt okay, though, as you came in?
Yeah, no, it felt fine. I didn't actually know there was damage. I could hear them over the radio going, the bumper's hanging off. I'm like, okay. Yeah.
Beyond that, a report card on the first hour of the race for you guys. You happy?
Yeah, really happy. I obviously aren't out there. It's my first race ever, so I knew I wasn't going to do any records, but had my own record to beat, and I made it my second last lap. So that was me coming in, and I'll let Adam go out there now and try and clean up the rest of it.
Good on you. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, she's even got the media stuff down pat too, hasn't she, Des?
Yeah, good on her. Fantastic to see a couple going racing like this. Really, really good to see, and absolute standing round of applause for her because she's kept out of everyone's way, and she just got a knock on that, sort of on the last lap as she was coming in there and put a bit of the bumper off there. So I guess you really can't catch any fault there. Both BMWs coming out of turn 9 there, sliding their way out there. So maybe both of them have got a rear tyre issue because they're not right up on the back of Jim Policino at the moment, although he's only just out of shop there, just up the road. It's only a matter of 1.4 seconds, but maybe both BMWs have been lighting up the rear tyres too much and sliding through. Three-wheeling Chem Musil in the Triple S Pulsar 86E wheel is still off the ground. Conserving tyres, I guess that's what that is.
Cal Jones ready to jump into the 31 Renault. And of course, he shares with his boss at the moment, Colin Osborne. Yep, and that pit lane is about to get pretty busy.
I would suggest so. The 1 hour mark.
Yeah, just about the 1 hour mark now. So most of these cars will start coming in over the next 10 or so minutes. Fuel, possibly tyres, driver changes, it'll all be happening. And we've got two of the best in the business, Cam and Rusty down there, that'll cover all the action for us as it does.
Class C car just getting out of the way now of Lachlan Gibbons as he goes through. Lachlan currently sitting in 5th place and Colin Osborne currently sitting in 13th place. So it's an A1 car and a Class C car. Looks like someone's about to go ski racing with the iridescent orange helmet.
Part of the Jamaican bobsled team.
Looks like it, doesn't it? Here we go. There's our race leader coming through on that aforementioned Colin Osborne, car number 10A. Happens to be 1 on the road. And doing an A1 effort there is Grant Denyer.
So a very similar situation to yesterday, Daz, in the fact that Denyer has lapped every car right up to 5th, which is Lockie Gibbons, and that is about to happen shortly, I would suggest. There's a 1:30.5 second gap between Gibbons and the leader, so that's only about a second away from Denyer passing him. And same as yesterday, every car in the field up to 4th would have been lapped before correct. The 1 hour mark.
And we've done it at that same point in the race, which is, I guess, what we expected it to be. There's the Hargraves car, there's the Lillis car. And where are those guys on the road? No, sorry, Callahan currently at the wheel, 11th on the road there and leading A2 class. So normally aspirated, rear wheel drive. And it sits in A2 class. There's the movement there under Adam Hargraves. I wonder if there's something down on the exit of turn 9 for everyone whose rear-wheel drive car to be sliding through the corner like that. Hawkins in, and Cam Vanderdunken in the lane.
Caitlin Hawkins, we saw the brake problems she had earlier, just pulling in right now to her pit bay, about to get out. We're going to talk to you about exactly what they're allowed to do. Only 3 cars are allowed out, 3 pit crew are allowed to work on the car. Caitlin Hawkins being allowed out, or being assisted out of the car right now. We saw before that she did have that brake issue earlier. She's out. Next driver about to be slotted in. In terms of fuel, no one's allowed to work on the car. You can see the fuel right now. This is almost like the normal petrol Bowser. Very different to what you would see at a supercars event. I'm going to grab our camera and show you just over here as well. He's actually pumping the fuel, much like you'd see at a petrol Bowser, as opposed to what you'll see down the lane, where they use this setup much more like GT racing and much more like you'd see within the supercars. Just cleaning up right now. You cannot work on the car whilst you are refueling. You can see right now there's a fire extinguisher controller here, and there's also the safety in the background at the moment, just pumping the fuel in. The driver change can take place whilst they are refueling, but they will all need to go back behind the red line once the driver's inserted and the fuel's in, before they're allowed back out to work on the car. Some different little things being used, guys, down here in pit lane. I'll tell you one thing I've never seen, though, is like a petrol Bowser, we're putting the petrol into the car.
And while Cameron was doing that report, you might have spotted in the background of the shot the BMW Car 5, the Hargraves entry, making its way for an unscheduled tour of the pit lane. They did not service that car. I am being told by officials that is a drive-through penalty, a breach of rules. When he left the pit lane, he's crossed the blend line apparently, and that's the slap on the wrist, a drive-through penalty.
Thank you for that, Rusty.
The other thing that's interesting there with that refuel on the Caitlin Hawkins car is the fireproof material going over the rear wheels, so covering any heat coming out from the brakes. So if you do get a fuel spill, you don't get a fire. You know what, in years gone by in the Winton 300, yours truly was over in that little pit lane over there, changing brakes on the back of a VN Commodore whilst they refueled with jerry cans over my head. And I was under that fuel blanket, so if there was a fire, I was well and truly encapsulated in it. But that's what we did in those days. It was jerry cans. There was no such thing.
And you had a smoke hanging out your mouth too?
Dry brake was for Formula One. We're talking, that's only 1992 or 93 that I'm talking about. But yeah, put the cigarette out before you dive in there to do the rear brakes. But that's what you did. That's what we knew. You know, some of the trick teams had a vent pipe in the jerry can that went up into the top of the jerry can so that you get the fuel out faster. But you know, that's great to see that they're allowed to do that, but they've got to take those safety mechanisms with them when they do it. So really cool to see that they're out there racing, and that hand pump doing it there as well. So it's a little bit old school, and we still see it today.
Yep, John Goodacre brings the car in. He's handing it over now to his teammate. And it's a driver change. Of course, Brad Woods stepping into that BMW.
It's actually a pretty strong driver combination with Johnny Goodacre and Brad Woods, the Easy Pos car. You see John Goodacre back at the Shannons Nationals. The bulk of his racing career with saloon cars and GT3 Porsche Cup at the Shannons Nationals. And now in production cars. Very well prepared team and car. Nice looking car too, always a good livery when Johnny Goodacre goes racing. As we look all around that car, the Hancooks seem to be standing up pretty well. They've done fuel and it look like they're going to do tyres. So whatever difficulty they may have been having with the tyres, they're not really acknowledging that.
She was that Caitlin Hawkins car had a major service, 2 minutes 13 in pit lane. Ross Donaldson in the car now. Rusty down in pit lane.
Just while they continue to complete the service here for car 4A, I've got John Goodacre with me. How was that session?
Yeah, really good. It was pretty good to start with. Got a reasonable start. Picked up 1 or 2 spots, which is, that's the best we can get in the class we're in. Someone dumped a heap of oil, though. I think it was one of the Ebos, turn 3, 4. And I was the first one on the scene, so it was a bit tricky and buggered up a few laps. It was there for a few laps, quite a few laps. It's only just started drying out in the last 5 laps or so. so you get back on the pace.
So that's happened, what, sort of 15 minutes ago during the last kind of part of your stint?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was about 15, 20 minutes ago.
Was it a catch? What happened?
Yeah, it is sideways everywhere. There's oil everywhere right on the race line. So, a bit tricky. So in the next few laps, you didn't know what to expect. And I actually expected a heap of cars to come off. It was pretty bad.
Okay. Beyond all that, everything's box ticked here. Everyone's happy?
Yeah, no, car's going well. Tyres are hanging in there. We're in a good position, I think. We're not too far behind the other MW, M1. So see how Brad goes and puts a good stint in. I think we'll be okay.
Grab a drink. Thank you.
Thank you.
Interesting to see that comment, because the two retirements out of this race are Evos, an Evo 9 and Evo 10, so it was the differential that went in Miller's car. Maybe it lost all its oil, then it lost its drive. Because
over half an hour though ago.
Yeah, well, a race driver getting out of a car, they're not really quite in tune about how long it happened. It could have been 5 minutes ago, it could have been an hour ago. You know, he's come out of a pretty torrid stint. Not saying that Johnny Goodacre's a liar, well, there's only a couple of Evos in the race and they're both out. So one of them did a diff, the other one wasn't an oil-related issue. So I wonder if that differential has emptied itself out. They don't hold a lot of oil though, those Evo diffs. It's lucky to be a 1.2 litres or something in those things as well. So that actually can be sometimes why they do cook and lose their oil and spew it out onto the track. But we don't know. Just interesting reports coming back from the pit lane, and John Goodacre is certainly an experienced guy, would be able to analyse that very, very well and give us the good result as far as that information. Here's car number 12, the Griffith and Will Brown car. It's still Will Brown at the wheel, and still Will Brown leading Class E. Currently 14th on the road. Doing a good job, driving nicely. Will, of course, we saw driving the Mercedes with Rod Salmon last year in the production car series, particularly at Wakefield Park. Did a good job.
Unfortunately, though, for those guys, they didn't have a good race yesterday. So the only points they're going to take out of the weekend are these points that they accumulate today. That's going to keep them out of contention for a Class E win for the weekend. But definitely give them a Class E race win here on the Sunday.
Elizabeth Best out of the car, Matt Thulis in. Should see some good laps out of Matt. This Mini goes pretty well. JCW, it's the good car to have, that's for sure. And we know Matt does this sort of thing for a living, so advanced driver training. And he'll jump in the car and we'll see some good stuff from Matt Thulis.
Dimitri Agathos takes off with the 66 on the right-hand side of your screen. He's taken over from Lockie Gibbons. So that car makes its way down the road as well, the Subaru WRX. Would have enjoyed a bit of rain here tonight, sure.
Yeah, that's certainly what they wish for when they come to the track. That gives them their advantage. Also off the line, strong advantage. We actually saw Lachlan Gibbons do that in the race. Denya still at the wheel. We've gone well and truly over 1 hour and 5 minutes. And still setting strong laps. Last lap round on 1:30.355. It's only 2/10 off his fastest lap, which was done on lap 4.
It's very similar to the stint that he did yesterday. I think it was around about the 50-minute mark that they swapped. They did a driver change between himself and Tony D'Alberto. So a similar plan in place for today.
Yeah, interesting. They did a similar thing on the Sunday at Queensland Raceway, didn't they? It's they're playing that game and it's working for them at the moment. And why change it? If it's working for you, it's the winning formula.
It'll be interesting to see who takes the car for Sydney. Pretty much only a one-driver stint, isn't it, Sydney, with the 4 1-hour races?
Yeah, well, I guess whoever takes the stint is the preferred one to take the championship, isn't it? So
yeah.
We'll be able to play that out once we see the entry list for Sydney Motorsport Park as Cameron is patrolling pit lane.
We've got Tony D'Alberto about to get ready to get in the car. Grant's done a great job so far.
He's done an absolutely stellar job. Been really fast at the front, nice and smooth, pulled a nice gap. So we'll just see how the race pans out. You know, one safety car and that lead can be diminished, but he's done a great job. Can't fault him at all, so good on him.
You said earlier today when we had a chat that the car may not have been there underneath you from a race pace point of view. It certainly looks like you got it today.
Yeah, look, our biggest concern is the Policina car when Ryan sits and hops in it, because he's certainly a very quick driver and they had a lot of pace yesterday. So we'll see how we go. We think we've improved the car a little bit, but Grant's giving us the best shot now at stretching that gap, so he's making my job slightly easier.
All right, Tone, hopefully we see you at the end.
Thank you, cheers.
waiting his time. Tony D'Alberto. That time should not be too far away, I would have thought, as we head down towards the 1 hour and 10 minute mark of this race. Not too far off that. And our leading 4 cars continue on with their original starting drivers. Grant Denyer, Jim Policina, Grant Shannons and Tim Lay.
Yeah, Tim Lay just holding station, bringing that car back in to hand it over to the car owner and bring the points that they need to stay in contention with this year's championship hunt. He's still in contention with Grant Shannons. He's only a second and a half off the back of the M4 to the M3, as we've got Cam with further news in pit lane.
I just thought I'd grab Ryan Simpson after we heard from Tony D'Alberto. He suggests you are the quick man to look out for at the end of the race. That's a great honour coming from a driver of the calibre of Tony D'Alberto.
It is. It's a nice comment, but I don't think I'm that quick. We've got a fair way behind, so we're really banking on a safety car now. Jim's done a good job, but there's a bit of a gap there, so a safety car would be nice.
Commentators Tony Shebeki and Darren Smith have been talking about your drive yesterday. How would you rate it amongst all your drives? I know you've driven Formula Ford, Formula V, all sorts of things over the years, but it must have been a pretty special drive yesterday.
It was a long race, and I needed to push pretty hard towards the end. I was a little bit disappointed making the mistake at the restart, and tried to make amends for it and push pretty hard, but it was close. We got really close, so I'll remember it for a while.
Right, just between you and me, forget the cameras there. How long until you're in the car?
Well, we're waiting to see what they do, so I'm ready.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
He was born ready. Ryan Simpson just waiting for Jim Policina, who now is out to a minute away from our leader, Grant Denyer. And then a 3.5 second gap between second and third. Let's bring you up to date with our class leaders at the moment. A1, of course. Grant Denyer, Jim Policina, Grant Shannons, our top 3 in that class. And they are the top 3 overall. Rubus ahead of Keane in class B1. A2 only the one car in there. Nathan Callaghan in the Commodore in front in that section. Colin Osborne ahead of Kyle Orban in Group C. Just the one car in Group D. Matt Lewis leading that at the moment. And Will Brown still in charge by a fair gap too from Kem Usel and James Brock in Class E. Will Brown around about, let's say 49, nearly a minute, nearly 2 minutes between those two cars.
So last year at this event, it was Nathan Morecambe and Chaz Mostert in their Focus RS that won the race. They only just got there too. It was only a couple of seconds that they got there over Bob Pearson and Rick Bates, and then it was Dimitri Agathos and Lachlan Gibbons, Gore and Bensley that rounded out the 4 in this race last year. Down the lane to Greg Rust.
Just a couple of the big front-running teams gearing up now for stops, and the word from Berwick Linton's crew a moment ago is that we can expect Tim Lay within 5 minutes. Expect him in less than 5 minutes.
Tell you another thing you can expect down there at the moment, Rusty. I believe that the number 5 car, that is Adam Hargroves in that car at the moment, also coming in shortly. Looks like it's got a very loose back bumper bar. So we know that it had a hit earlier on when it had Sarah in that car. They did put it together with the 100-mile-an-hour tape, but it may have been loosened since, and that's not good news for them. That'll send them in for their third trip down the lane. Of course, their second trip was due to a infringement of pit lane penalty due to the fact that Adam took off and went over the bled line before hitting the track out of pit lane.
2 cars in the lane now in contention, both in their titles. The B1 car there of Mertens and Keane. So James Keane out, Dominic Mertens gets in and drives out of the lane down to Greg Rust.
Guys, the service work continues on the 38. Shane Smolin's already out of the car. How was the stint for you?
Actually, the stint was really good. The car was obviously getting better as the field load was coming down. The tyres hanging really well and this sort of thing. It was certainly punching above its weight. The leaders were obviously getting past, but we were certainly hanging on to them and twisty stuff. So, look, let's see. I think we're set for a good outright P, and there's still plenty of laps to go.
Tell me, this morning in the warm-up, just before you headed out, I sensed there was some sort of issue with the car there just before you headed out for the warm-up. Was there some sort of problem with either communications or steering? What was it you worked on?
No problem. No, the car's good. And the car's been good all weekend. It's really reliable little thing. Haven't quite got the outright pace, obviously, of these new cars, but it's been a good car all year for us. So let's hope we bring this home, and somewhere in the top 5 would be fantastic. I have no idea where we are, by the way.
How do you feel after an hour behind the wheel?
Oh, I'm good, actually. I found the lovely masseuse, the osteopath, over in the shed, and she did a few magic tricks, so the old boy managed to go around pretty well.
Thanks, Shane.
Thanks.
Yeah, good stint there with Shane Small at the wheel there. Should be proud of himself there. He's done a whole lot of racing this year, but the couple of times he has. Shebex, he said he did some good racing at Sydney a couple of weeks ago as well in the Pro-Am. So good on him. Good to see him back at the track.
Oh, just great to see him in a Porsche again too. He's had so much racing as part of that series here in Australia. We should give a thumbs up too to Rob Rubis, who's doing a great job in that BMW 1 Series. Currently 7th overall and leading B1 class, doing it nicely.
Yeah, the number 29. It's been a car that's been around for a little while too. It's had a good bit of development put into it, and they're reaping those rewards of, albeit getting your hands on a second-hand car, but you've got a car that's also been developed. Here's an interesting situation with the big Commodore, Nathan Callahan, and the Lotus coming through. He would not have even known it was there. No. Would not have even known it. He would have been lucky to have seen a green and white flash in the mirror as he approached the back of him there. So
it was like a flea on a rhino's bum.
Well, he's got through regardless of what flea and what rhino was involved. And Grant Denyer continues to lead this race, but certainly that was a good way to get through whilst the car's running wide, and you get the little Lotus up the inside and just drive away, and that's exactly what he's doing.
That's the most ready we've seen Tony D'Alberto now. He's got the hood on, suits fully done up as well, so one would think that it's not too far away before they bring this leading car, the number 10 Lotus, in for its pit stop. The crew even looks like they're ready as well too, so maybe a lap or two away from Grant Denyer. Fastest lap of the race for him? No, hang on, maybe not. There you go.
Well, I guess what they're doing is that they're watching the live stream. They've heard that Ryan Simpson and the guys next door are waiting for them to blink so that they blink. So they're just sending out mixed messages, getting everyone on their toes. Bit of gamesmanship. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Bit of gamesmanship alive and well down there in pit lane.
So you should just see how this does play out in regards to pit lane stops for these two Lotuses. As I mentioned earlier, yesterday's stops were quite significantly different, with the Denyer D'Alberto car taking nearly a minute and a half off the clock for their stop, as opposed to Ryan Simpson, who came in, no driver change for them, but still only a 48-second stop, so nearly a 30-second difference between the two, and one would wonder whether they're going to go with that same strategy again today.
Well, it worked, didn't it? So let's see what happens for them.
Did.
Yeah. Woods now just getting taken by Grant Sharon at the wheel of the M4. So that's another lap down for the car in position number 11, an A1 car. So getting that one done as well. And Grant Sharon currently sitting in 3rd place, goes through on 11th place. So that's starting to get right through the field again. We see Kyle Albans. Here's the car in position number 2. Jim Pollicina still at the wheel, done nearly an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and 17 and a half minutes there as well. So Ryan Simpson was in his driving suit, certainly didn't have the balaclava on when we saw him chatting down there with our guys in pit lane. And he just goes through and gets rid of Kyle Albans for another lap there as well. There's Beric Linton, now a couple of cars back further, and the car being driven by Woods and Goodacre. Woodsy at the wheel at the moment, and they're down there on 11th.
Great Sharon pulling some time back on Jim Pollicina. That margin had got out to 4 seconds a few laps ago. It's back down to 2 now. So the BMW M4 starting to come back alive again.
So essentially, at 42 minutes left to go, we're fighting out for 2nd and 3rd on the podium with these A1 cars, aren't we? Because this lead for Denyer is it's almost unassailable unless something goes not to plan, let's say.
Here comes the Winton car. So Tim Lay brings that into lane. Eric Linden will step in, we believe.
Let's see if they do rears.
Yeah, let's have a look and see what does happen. In regards to points as well, though, I mean, Policina and Simpson are 36 points ahead of Sherrin for the round. So in regards to overall situation, that car would have to drop a fair few places for that 36-point margin. So even if Sherrin did catch Policina, you would think that they're still safely second for the round.
Yeah, that's it makes a lot of sense, Tony, what you're saying. That's the way things will transpire. Really keen to see what they do with this car, because if they've been complaining about rears, Rusty's chasing Tim Lay into the shed now, but they're going about it very nicely. They've put fuel in. Doesn't look like the car's going up, so it doesn't look like it's getting a set of tyres. Greg Rust in the lane. The fuel actually going back on again by the looks of
I
things.
reckon Tim was trying to get a sense of what the tyres look like, because you haven't been 100% happy as far as grip level is concerned. I'll let you get your helmet off there firstly while they continue to work on that car and get Berwick ready to head on out. Give us the feedback. What was the drama?
Oh, mate, it started off all right, but just after a few laps, just really struggled with understeer. So, and when the car hasn't got a lot of grip, and these ABS cars, sometimes the pedal travels, and you've got a deep pedal into the corner, or other times you've got a hard pedal into the corner. So it was a very unpredictable end. I was like, you know, if there were spider webs on the apexes, I was leaving them there. So it was a bit sketchy, and I think, you know, I sound like a whinging driver now, but I think power is a little bit of a problem too. So we just haven't got the power that we should, I reckon. But anyway.
How early did that start in the stint for you? How soon did you start getting the grip issue?
Well, I started from the back, so by the time I got through everything and got into a bit of a rhythm, it was just, yeah, the first couple of laps were okay, but we could have the pressures out a fair bit too. So anyway, but we've left those on because I think we can't afford to change tyres for time-wise, but I think, you know, probably third or fourth is probably best we can do today, unfortunately.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Cheers.
Cool. Ta.
Working side tyres done on that car.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
As
There's
the Sherrin's
car in.
Yeah. So this will be interesting to see.
No tyres.
No tyres, just driver change and off you go. Ian Sherrin jumps into that. So that was a fairly quick stop in the scheme of things, a minute 14 for that Sherrin car. The Winton car getting out to around about 2 minutes for its pit stop.
So that's going to be a net gain for the Sherrins, as long as they can get up the pace and the tyres will stay under the car. Remember, that car had tyre issues last year in its development phase. It hasn't had tyre problems ever since. They really did do a lot of work on dampers and a lot of work on geometry on that car to make sure that they could still be fast and not pop tyres, because they were getting feedback from the control tyre mob saying you are just running too much camber and that's why you're blowing up the inside of the tyre. They knew it. They rolled the dice and tried to take it on, as we get an update again from pit lane with Greg Rust.
Just try and dive in and have a quick word with Grant about how the stint was for you. It looked as though I was down at another pit stop, and as I wandered back to check on you guys, it looked as though you left the tyres on, did you?
Yeah, we haven't changed any tyres, so run the gauntlet and see how we go.
Good battle. You guys are in the thick of it with Tim Lay and with Jim Policina for that entire stint. It looks like it's been hard work for you.
Yeah, it's been a bit of hard work out there, but it's been a lot of fun, you know. It's been great. Both of them were battling nice and cleanly, and it was clean racing, and with other cars mixing it up, so it was fantastic fun.
I think a lot of people were perhaps, allowing for a safety car. Pretty amazing. We haven't had one.
Yeah, I know. I was shocked, actually, to get so far through. I've been waiting for one to come up, but, yeah, nothing's come up. But credit to all the teams out there, you know, like as we came through, they let us have room, and everyone's been watching their mirrors, so they've been all doing a great job.
All right, final one. Car's in good shape for the last stint here?
Yes. Yeah.
Good on you. Nice to catch up.
Well done.
Couldn't be happier by the sound of things. Enjoyed the first part of the race. I guess the only way to be happy would be if he was in the lead and handed over to brother Ian to take it home from the lead, which is what they did towards the middle half and latter half of last season, as Jim Policina is now being shown in the lane here. The Parramatta Smash Repairs Mocom car. Cameron Vandenunken in pit lane.
Well, you can see the Policina cars in. Ryan Simpson, he didn't wait for Tony D'Alberto to get into the car. They've gone now and made that change. So Jim Policina out. We know that Ryan Simpson is the quicker of the two drivers. And they've finished fuel just as he's getting in now. Looks like no tyre change, fuel done. It's just straps to go on. And Simpson will be out on track. And the charge will then be on.
It's big guy, Jim Policina, unwinding himself out of the Lotus Exige 350 Sport.
So there was a 3-second gap between Sherrin and Policina. It took 1:14 for the Sherrin car. The Policina car makes its way out now.
No tyres.
No tyres, so one would think that there shouldn't be too much of a gap between the Sherrin car and the Policina car once they get back out on track. Here comes the Sherrin car now around the final turn.
Yeah, so that's pushed out nicely indeed. They've come in, no tyres, and that's really a commanding way to go about it. Now we just have to see what's going to happen with the Simply Sports Cars Green Lotus. Just Cuts car. Now, Ryan Simpson was magic in this car at the end of 2 hours yesterday. He's only now just jumped in the car. He's as fresh as fresh. He doesn't know what the car is under him just yet. So let's let him acclimatise for 2 or 3 laps and then let's see if he's still got the car under him yesterday to start a blistering chase down for the lead. Oh, no. Berwick Linton has come to a halt in the number 23. Bruce Linton Body Shop, paint and panel specialist, and gets underway again. Is that a Control-Alt-Delete? Is that a switch it off? It's gone into limp home mode. Turn it all back on again, and away you go. That's what happened, isn't it?
Definitely
it's underway again.
Yeah.
But he's lost ground. Again, he's lost ground, so that's not good. Not good at all. They did put left side tyres on that car during the pit stop, so a driver change to get Tim Lay out after a ripping first sector of this race as we go to Greg Rust in the lane.
Boys, we spoke with Shane Smolin before, driver of car 38, when he stepped out and Muller stepped behind the wheel of that car. Now, the team were working to try and understand a vibration problem in that car. They thought it might have developed some sort of issue with pickup. It's picked up something on the tyres around the circuit, but now there's a greater issue for them. It's dropped power significantly and it's lost around about 6 seconds a lap. So they're trying to maintain it and just hoping that they can get that car to the finish.
Pictures showing us shots of Tony D'Alberto, who was suited up. He was balaclavaed up 5 minutes ago. Balaclava has since been taken off. And he doesn't look like he's in any rush to do anything.
Certainly doesn't. The crew don't even seem to be in any rush to do anything there. They're just getting themselves limbered up if they have to do anything at all. And they're all just standing back behind the red safety line. And Tony D'Alberto just saying, my footy team beat your footy team, ha ha ha. It's all fun and games down there in pit lane. Denya dipping into turn 3. Beautiful looking green Lotus. If you're going to have a Lotus, have a green one.
Yeah.
Bright green or a British Racing green, whichever one you favour. Certainly what the logo colour is, yellow and green, and being that Simply Sports Cars are on board makes sense.
Sort of a World Cup final at the moment, isn't it? It's England v Germany.
Yes. Well, they had it. Germany had it all their own way in the GT Trophy race earlier on today, so it's a good fair fight in the Australian Production Car Series. And pictures filled with our race leader car number 10, A1. The A1 being the class it's in. There's another car in the Jacuzzi Spas Australian Production Car Series. Is that car 4?
Yeah, good stint for Rob Rubis. Hands it over to Scott Turner.
Quite a long stint, isn't it? Actually,
90
we've
minutes.
gone 90 minutes right up against it. Of course, you don't actually have to have a co-driver. In fact, we've got numerous cars doing it with single drivers here this weekend. So not necessary to have that second driver. Number 29 it is. We're in the lane. That's a B1 car. The 135. And away it goes, the Dynamite matte black and orange car. There's the big Commodore in the lane there as well. Nathan Callahan in. Be handing it over to Chris Lillis. Fueled up. That'll be a big load of fuel tone going in there. 6.2 litre V8. And Callahan out. Bit of a spring in his step, actually. Jumps out. Here's our race leader down there in pit lane with Cam Mananakan.
And Tony D'Alberto is not getting in the car. Grant Denyer is fueled and good to go. Tony D'Alberto, just quickly, no driver change, Tone. What's going on?
Well, we think that we don't need to. So Grant's doing a great job, and we want to try and put as much space between us and Ryan Simpson as we can. And that's the best way to do it. So hopefully we've still maintained the lead, and we've put a lap on him there. So Grant's just got to stay in for the rest of the race now.
You're looking cool as a cucumber, and I think you're going to stay that way, Tone.
Yeah, it's all about strategy and trying to get the win. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, then we'll take it a punt.
All right, thanks, Tone.
Cheers.
Well, we know Ryan Simpson's a great driver, but there is no way he's making up a lap in 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's a bridge too far away, isn't it? So just fuel. Only fuel. No driver change, no tyres. It's exactly what the Simpson Policina car did. It was just simply a driver change. So I guess they've both levelled off any chance of pit strategy playing into it. And we'll see. I guess the thing is the driver change in the Policina car. Ryan Simpson fresh. He's setting fastest and personal best sectors as we speak. Still hasn't jumped down into that fastest lap, which was done by Grant Denyer on that in lap.
They were seriously that far ahead, though. They could have done fuel 4 tyres and changed 3 drivers.
They could have.
Got out in front.
They could have. And here's a bit of lively competition going on here at the moment. Kyle Orford is in second place, and that's Ryan Simpson coming up onto the back of Kyle Orford at the moment.
Now, they haven't had a pit stop yet, the Orford Lotus. So they are second on track, about to drop to third.
So they're going to need fuel at some stage. Kyle is staying out in the car. Tony might get a last minute call up to jump in with a fuel stop. There's Beric Linton in the background there. Beric currently in 6th place and a lap down on those cars at the moment. But Ryan Simpson has released himself now into P2, and there is Beric Linton going with him at the moment. So staying with him. Right up the back of the Alford Lotus this time around. Lachlan Gibbons remains in the number 66. In fact, they're 5th on the road. This is a good run for the Full Gas Racing team. And just looking across, they've done a pit stop as well. So they're keeping their championship hopes alive and well. They did have a torrid run at Winton here last year with an engine problem, but they did get a good result at the end of the day in the second race. In the Sunday afternoon race, they got home in 3rd place. As Greg Russ continues to wear out his runners in pit lane.
Darren, the Beric Linton team have been coming out into the lane and keeping a good close eye on this BMW, given what happened before where it slowed and then he regained pace again. Now, what they have told me is it's got some sort of driveline issue. And what Beric basically did was effectively a control-alt-delete. It seems to have cleared the DSC issue. He's going okay again now, but this is not the first time that's happened in this car, and they've got kind of their fingers crossed that it won't happen again during this race.
Well, time will tell whether that is the case or not for that Beric Linton car. Currently sits in 6th place. Good battle happening for B1 as well, with Martins and Rubus back in 8th and 9th. The Volkswagen Golf currently doing a good job. Let's go to our highlights from the day. It was a shocking start to the day for Jason Miller in that Mitsubishi Evo 9. Just limped its way home and out of the race.
Yeah, they got into sort of about the 40-minute mark of the race, and it sort of all fell apart. And ultimately, in the end, we're informed it did a diff in the back of the car there, so that's not something you can change. Thought it drive shaft or something, which is something that can be done at the track. Just watching the Sharon car there, it was Grant at the wheel at the time, disappearing off the track. Here's a battle of 2 cars out of class. That's a battle that's been raging on down the inside. Went Jim Policina at the time, just splitting them up there, and you often wonder whether these guys have seen them, but was keen at the wheel at the time. Here's Elizabeth Best going through, and the number 29 being passed on that Volksmuller car there as well. This is the car that had all those brake dramas yesterday where brake pads welded to the disc. It's not the first time we've seen that, but certainly something we see in production cars from time to time, being that they don't run the floating type disc on them. They can expand with the heat, and of course when you run out of pad material, you go metal to metal, then yes, fusion will take place. Kind of like welding the pad to the disc. Here's the Volkswagen, the Golf in the lane now, getting refueled. This was Tim Lay in after a really barnstorming first half dozen laps of the race. Gets out, and we get car owner Eric Winton in, and that car out, and the M4 was in the lane at exactly the same time. It got 2 working side tyres on the 23. The M4 didn't. And there goes Jim Policina, the big fella, unwinding himself out of the Lotus. And here's the BMW just going through its check program and back underway again.
D'Alberto and Denia, there was no driver change there. Tony D'Alberto left in the pits as Grant Denia sped off in pursuit of holding on to the lead, and he did that. Back to live action here with 25 and a bit minutes to go. It is Grant Denia ahead by a lap and a bit from Ryan Simpson, who has just posted the fastest lap of the race lap 56. Currently on lap 58, so 2 laps ago. A 1:30.11 for Simpson. Kyle Orford in 3rd place, Ian Sherrin 4th, Greg Liddon 5th.
It's only 24 hours ago that Ryan Simpson reset the production car lap record at a 1:28.72. He looks to be heading south with it, Tony. He looks to be heading after his own lap record because he's setting faster sectors again on this lap. So maybe he's got himself tuned into the car underneath him. It's taken him, well, probably only 2 laps to do so, and now setting the fastest lap of the race. So Ryan Simpson really working as one with the little Lotus Exige 350 Sport.
I've got a feeling that very, very shortly we're about to see Ryan Simpson unlap himself. I reckon that could happen in the next lap or 2. I think a lap in 24 minutes ain't going to be achievable for him, but it'd be a great effort if he can unlap himself.
Yeah, well, they're pretty much on the same bit of track there at the moment, the 2 Lotuses. But this is the battle with the full gas racing car. Lachlan Gibbons currently 6th on the road, and Chris Lillis in the number 64 HSV, the big banger. Best quality Australian built cars there ever were, the HSVs, that's for sure. Lucky if you've got one in your shed.
Definitely. So there goes the Denia Lotus, and there goes the Simpson Lotus. Not much of a margin between these two. It's definitely a lot closer than what it was when Grant Denia came out of pit lane. And again, Ryan Simpson brings it down to the 129s now, 129.6.
Wow, he's only 0.9 of a second off his own lap record for yesterday, and he did that lap record on really tight old tyres too. Well, let's say correctly temperatured and pressured tyres, equally matched across the axle.
60 laps old.
Really impressive stuff. In fact, these 2 Lotuses out in front, impressive from both drivers. Grant Denia doing the whole race, it seems, by himself, and Ryan Simpson jumping in late in this race and setting lap records at this late stage with old worn-out Hancooks underneath him.
Tony D'Alberto still gets paid, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Good. I'd like to think so. Well, maybe the idea is now that it's D'Alberto that goes to Sydney Motorsport Park and runs single-handed up there. Maybe that's the deal. Orders to Grant Denia go now that he's got a good standing in the championship. Does he go? That's up to the team.
Yeah.
Isn't it? I guess it's up to the fund provider too. That's probably normally where that argument lies. So this is the car that John Goodacre is sharing with Brad Woods. It's actually not for position there with the BMW and the WRX. So that was a good shot there that showed us the 2 Lotuses and how far they are actually apart, because it's now only about 1.2 seconds between those 2 cars, between Denia and Simpson. But Simpson has to then unlap himself. So the whole field has been lapped by Grant Denia. A monumental task in itself, as the Adam Hargraves' car. Mark Carr tries to get through on Brad Woods. Of course, Adam Hargraves we saw at Queensland Raceway driving the Mark Sports sedan. Or was it? No, it was at Taylor Ben, and then it was Jake Camilleri in that Mark car, the Mark II Sports sedan. And around into Penrite they go. The number 5 looks up the inside. Hargraves on Woods. A couple of BMWs getting on with business there. A couple of 1Ms. And the HSV lurking in the background as well will take full advantage of anything that those BMWs don't get done. And point it in a straight line and unleash that 6.3 litre V8. Our race leader, Grant Denyer, at the back of picture now is the charging Ryan Simpson. He's done a 1:29.5 last time around. So each time, each lap, he is going faster in this race. But he is trying to unlap himself. So once he's done that, he's got to get all the way around. He's only got now 20 minutes and 40 seconds left in this race to do so. And each sector now in this race has been fastest with Ryan Simpson in that car on screen there. The number 7, Parramatta Smash Repairs, Mocom Communications, McDonald's car. And there is the car leading the race. I don't think Denyer will put up too much of a battle. There's 20 minutes left in the race. He's a lap up on the entire field at the moment. I guess it's a pride thing for the Sydney siders that are in that number 7 to just get through and unlap themselves. Finish with pride intact on the lead lap. Number 10 car now just going through turn 10 and out off the straight. So they're sharing the same picture on the long shot now. Cars 1 and 2 on the road. Number 10 and number 7. Class E car of James Brock just in front of them at the moment. Brocky currently second in that class, down in position 16. Pulls right out of the way. Really good driving there, James. Well done, getting out of the way. And here comes Ryan Simpson. Adam Hargraves off the track after getting pretty muscly with car number 4, Brad Wood's car. So he's gone off the track as well. And Ryan Simpson has driven right up onto the back of Grant Denyer. This is actually not for place because Ryan Simpson has to try and get through to unlap himself. As I said, pride at stake here. Finish on the lead lap with the car that's exactly the same as you have on.
Well, he's done another great job, Ryan Simpson. Once again, continues to lower the lap time, the best lap time for this race, towards that record he set yesterday of 1:28.72 is what he might be chasing. It's a 1:29.43 at the moment. And Grant Denyer is not going to give him any easy opportunity to do that.
He's not going to open the corner up for him to have a go at it, is he? He's it's going to go, right, oh, you want to unlap yourself. I've done the hard work of lapping you. You're going to have to try and get through on me as I get down the inside of the 50. That's got Dominic Mertens at the wheel now. He'll be all surprised that the 2 Lotuses have snuck up on him. And Ryan Simpson now has to work hard to get back, gets through on the class-leading car of Class E. In fact, no, that's not. The class-leading car is Cham Musil in the Pulsar. So getting through on the Will Brown, Mark Griffith car. Down the straight they go. This is for the lead. 2 Lotus Exige, 350 Sports. The Lotus Elise coming onto the market back in 1997, still sharing the same aluminium extruded chassis that they run with these extremely strong, extremely light way to go about it. Ryan Simpson now just trying to work the traffic to be able to get through on Denyer. Clearly the fastest of the 2 cars on the track. Last time around, half a second faster. Right up in behind, around the sweeper they go, under the shade of the tree. Ryan Simpson looks to go to the inside. The Lotus doesn't want to go there, so he has to stay in behind Denyer. Here's the thing, when you're trying to race with a car identical to yours, even though you feel as though you're faster, remember, they can put the car exactly at the same point on the track that you can.
Yeah, they certainly do. Ryan Simpson trying everything he can to get this. And this pass done and get himself unlapped. Kyle Alford remains in 3rd place, Ian Sherrin in 4th. So the 3 Lotuses have stepped out for a field day today. Berwick Linton in the BMW in 5th. This is good.
This is riveting stuff, isn't it? It really is. It's how the last stanza of the race finished yesterday. It just happened to be that they were both on the same lap. But that green car with Grant Denyer at the wheel, this is...
Simpson just
does this eclipse Ryan's drive yesterday if Grant can lead this race from start to finish? No. I suppose Ryan's still setting lap records today after jumping in the car late in the race with 40 minutes left to go. So Grant Denyer, though, this is a really strong drive for him. The guys did it together at Queensland Raceway. This time the green car is going to have Grant Denyer at the wheel. We envisage for the entire race there would be no real reason to come in now and swap drivers unless Grant was having some physical issues or something like that.
Both these cars just came into pit lane for a bit of fuel. There was a driver change from Policina to Simpson. That was the only difference. Both had old boots on.
Gee, it's interesting. Dean Lilly set this car up, the number 7, and the guys in the number 10 were very, very wary about the advantage that the setup of this car has got. Dean Lilly, a little private garage down in the outer eastern suburbs of Melbourne, and there's that fluid. That's not the same stuff that Johnny Goodacre was referring to? Is that down through turn? Yeah, it is. It's down through turn 3.
Looks pretty fresh, doesn't it?
It does. It looks very fresh as we've got the oil flag out down there at turn 3 as well now. So most of the cars look to be trying to take it underneath the middle of them, but it switches right back across in front. I wonder, well, I guess we see the next car that expires is the one that's lost all of that oil. And just trying to see if it's evaporating, because with the sun still on it like that, if it's actually cooling, it will evaporate. In fact, it's right down the straight, the old straight, in fact, up the hill, right down. It's right over on the left-hand side. So the ultimate racing line, just watching the cars avoiding it now. But that's some big oil slick. So that's going to be a car that's going to expire pretty quickly, regardless whether it's oil, water, or whatever it is. It's lost a whole lot of its blood on the track there. So Ryan Simpson has driven up onto the back of Denyer, but hasn't been able to dispense with him now for 3 laps.
Which is the reason why Grant Denyer wouldn't want Ryan Simpson to unlap himself, because if a safety car was to come out for some reason, all of a sudden the pack is bunched up. Ryan Simpson is only 30 or 40 metres behind on the same lap, and you're under siege.
Well, Grant Denyer's under siege now anyway. So Ryan Simpson is working very, very hard. And as I said, Dean Lilly set up this car. Ravage Raceworks across the back bumper of this car, and has certainly been heavily involved with pretty much everything Jim Policina has done over the years. And they've certainly sent the message to the other Lotus team that they have definitely across the setup of this car over this distance. So good effort. There's a Griffo.
Well, it could be. Mark Griffiths has come in to pit lane, and I'm sure we'll be told whether that is the car that dropped all that oil or not.
It's a fair bit. It starts exiting 2 and ends right around at the run down to 4.
I wouldn't have thought Griffo would have held that much oil.
Yeah, it's not a whole lot to get rid of, is it? It's still there, so I would have thought if it was coolant, it would be evaporated off the surface now. So Flaggy bringing in the deteriorating surface flag, or the oil flag as it's known colloquially. Strict definition of that flag in the manual is deteriorating surface. So it can be used for many things. It can be used for rain, can actually be used for the track breaking up. Saw that at Bathurst a number of years ago, where we had that 1000 broken in 2 parts with the break in the middle.
Yep. This is an amazing run for the fact that we haven't had a safety car for 1 hour and 47 minutes of this race. Not trying to put the moz on it, but if we go the full distance, that would be pretty spectacular.
Yeah, I'm sure that unless there's something pretty untoward that happens now, like oil between turns 1, turn 2, and up to 3 and all halfway down to 4, that may occur. But the field's well aware of it now. They've brought that oil flag in, and it won't neutralise the race at this stage. But there's the Echo. It's back out and running. So it's not dropping anything else there. So there's Alford car now, and it's got Linton, which is a lap down. So that is actually an interesting situation. That's car 3 on the road, the number 54. And
Ryan Simpson has unlapped himself.
Yeah, he has too. Ryan Simpson's gone through and still doing fastest lap. So this is quite confusing. Linton's actually on lap number 65 and in 5th place. Kyle Alford's in 3rd place and on lap 66. That's explained it for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. There is our class leader, Martins, in B1, the number 50 car, of course, of which he shares with James Keane at Volkswagen Golf. It's been a good run for them.
It has been a brand new race car at the last round for these guys. So getting the development done in the Volkswagen is good stuff. Well done to them. Currently 8th on the road as well. So a top 10 finish for the B1 car is pretty handy. In fact, today we're seeing the A1 cars hanging in there. They're filling the spots right back to 7. Whereas yesterday we saw some of the lesser class cars coming through to into the 5, infiltrating the 5 at the end of the race. So we're getting at 19 cars to the finish, and there's the Orban brothers. Car number 17, currently leading Class C and in 12th position. Callum Jones right behind in Class C, the number 31. So that's a 12th and 13th on the road there for Class C, but the number 17 is in the box seat at the moment. Coming up the hill into the sun, will be right in their eyes as they come around into turn 3. Better grow. Renault McGann hailing out of Bathurst, New South Wales. Great to see them making the journey south here to Winton. And at this point in time, class victory would be a good result for those guys.
It certainly would be a great result for them. And Chris Lillis and Nathan Callahan share that beautiful Commodore. That is our class leader in A2. In fact, our only car in Class A2 for this weekend. They've been fairly consistent throughout the day. Tough, sitting in 10th place.
Tough track to haul the HSV around on. But full credit to them. At the end of the day, we've lost our local automotive manufacturing industry, and these things stand head and shoulders above the best, above the rest. Number 64 leading the class. Going to bring that one home. And doing a good job. Currently 10th outright on the road and leading their Class A2.
He's still, he's still continuing to put on time on Grand Tenure is Ryan Simpson. That now down to 1 minute 28, the gap. It was 1.3 laps when he jumped into it. So he's just enjoying his time here at Winton this weekend is Ryan Simpson. As we see him on screen now, go past a couple of back markers.
Not getting anywhere near the racing miles that he'd like these days is Ryan Simpson, but I tell you what, he's sent a very clear signal to anyone that's looking for a driver that can represent himself and the team well, and the sponsors. He's the guy, and he's done it very, very well in 2 races today. Ross Donaldson at the wheel now, sharing this car with Caitlin Hawkins, leading car in Class B2 VE Holden Commodore. The white and purple car, just allowing a couple of BMWs through, the number 223. Yesterday did it with Hadrian Morale, now Caitlin doing it with Ross Donaldson. Unfortunately, Hadrian had to go home.
Yeah, today, so Ross has jumped in, being the 3rd driver, and has done a good job as well. That car, of course, effectively nearly rebuilt in the last few months since the Sandown race. Big smash for it in the wet at Sandown, taking it out. There's our Class D leader, the 51 car of Matt Thulus and Alexandra Best. Matt's in the car at the moment. That car currently sitting 15th overall.
Leading Class D car, doing a good job. Matt Thulus at the wheel. And, of course, bringing it home in first place. Well, at this moment, with 7 minutes left to go in this race, here's the car on track that's getting all the attention, the one that everyone was watching yesterday afternoon at around about this exact same time. Only had 17 seconds or about 16 seconds at this time left to go yesterday, and ultimately got home second place, which is what he's in now, but with only 0.2 of a gap. Tone, I'm going to say 1 minute 26 is a bridge too far, but Ryan is still setting fastest laps in this race.
Yeah, no, it certainly is. But I'll tell you what isn't a bridge too far, and with 6 minutes to go, Ian Sherrin is really starting to cut into the gap between himself and Kyle Alford. It was out to around about the 12-second mark, now down to 7.6. So the BMW M4 just turning it up a bit.
Well, I tell you what, he probably wants to get there and rob a place, otherwise it's going to be a Lotus whitewash on the podium.
Yeah.
And, well, it'll be a green wash because Denya's the one leading the way.
It's actually quite interesting because positions stay the way they are at the moment. Alford will actually take the...
Oh, Ryan Simpson has had a big spin on the oil down there at turn 3.
He has too.
Turned it round and has just ever so slightly kept it off the wall. Spun it round in that oil, and he has buried himself right down there in the dust. And at the moment, all you can see is the headlights just through the dust there. We've got our camera right over the top of it. He's kept it off the barriers, but that was going to be a very, very nasty crash. He engages the gear and drives back across the sand pit and continues on. So no need for a safety car with 5 minutes left to go in this race. So, well, I guess that means that we will have seen Grant Denyer go through, and we'll have dropped off the lead lap. Here is how it happened. That oil went down a number of laps ago. He's been well aware of it because he's been setting fastest laps whilst it's there. Just a momentary lapse in concentration there for Ryan. A rare lapse in concentration, and didn't hit anything.
No, lucky enough, the car remains straight and remains in second place.
Now all it's doing is distributing stones all around the Winton Motor Raceway layout.
Well, hopefully covering up the oil that was around as well.
Yeah, so there's all the stones coming out from the under tray, because when you go backwards, the under tray acts like a shovel and just grabs a whole lot of dirt and muck. And well, lucky it's only 4 minutes left in this race that I dare say we're going to be running wild and free right to the end there. Talking about wild and free. Denyer in that car right there. In the Jacuzzi Spas. Australian Production Car Series has done a ripping job today for Just Cuts and Simply Sports Cars. WM Waste on board there, doing a tremendous job.
Tell you what, Ryan Simpson would want to hope that everything is okay with that Lotus, because Kyle Alford is bearing down on him. That margin now, 11 seconds between the two of them. I wouldn't have thought that's going to be made up in 3.5 minutes, but if everything's not okay for that Simpson car, the Alford car and the Sherrin car just about ready to pounce.
Well, I guess that Kyle Alford will now be getting the message to push hard and try and get onto the back of Ryan, because if there is a problem, he wants to take full advantage of the situation.
3.3 seconds now, the margin between that car there, the BMW M4, and Kyle Alford. He is bringing it home hard, is Ian Sherrin, and on a big charge.
Well, the guy that runs the category would like to bring home a strong run towards the finish.
As Sherrin now gets past the 223, and that of course being driven by Donaldson at the moment, and now the only car he has in his sights is that black Lotus in front of him, driven by Kyle Alford.
And Kyle Alford will be getting the push on too, because the crew wanted to see him if something does happen to Simpson after he's off. That was a wild, wild ride.
Yeah. But fortunately for him, ended up okay in the end. So Denyer, Simpson, Alford, Sherrin, Linton, our top 5. And now under 3 seconds, the margin between Sherrin and Alford.
Car currently in second in Class C, the number 31, just limping home as well now. So only got 2 minutes left to go, just bringing it into, it suggests, to get the flag at this point in time.
Well, there's a big whack of points up for Jones and Osborne if they can bring it home. Currently 21 points for them for the weekend. Being passed by James Brock for position. So he's now moved up into 15th place.
The 54, Kyle Orford, now getting mixed up in the oil there as well. Almost did what Ryan Simpson did there. So under brakes, just about swapping ends. The Lotus is very, very light. So if they do start to get a little bit sideways, they go around pretty rapidly. As Ian Sherrin now on the flashes, just letting the other BMW just in front know that this M4 is on a charge, and it's charging for a podium. 1 minute and 21 seconds left to go. It is the bridge too far away, but he's not going to let it go. He saw what Ryan Simpson could do in a lap and a half towards the end of the race yesterday. Why not try and replicate that today and knock one of these Lotuses off the podium?
Be a great effort if you can. Now on to 2 seconds, the margin between Ian Sherrin and Kyle Orford.
I have to suggest this is the second at last lap with only 50 seconds left on the clock.
So they will cross the line with still time, which will allow us to have one final lap, and then our presentation of podium to happen pretty much straight off the back of the race. Grant Denyer, though, has had a sterling effort. Driven the whole 2 hours by himself. And is about
a crushing victory here for Grant Denyer.
Yeah.
This is absolutely dealing out a don't argue to the entire production car field.
So 3 wins in a row for this car. Took the final race.
Trifecta.
At Queensland. And of course a win yesterday and a win today.
3 from 3 from Granny D. Yeah, good job. There's the checkered flag.
We'll credit Tony D'Alberto with some of it.
Some of it at QR. Great win there. The Mark Cars guys there on the fence as well. They're very, very happy. There's Nick Higgins there, pointing down there saying, hey, there's our boy. Done a tremendous job. And, well, the rest of the field coming to the line. Here is this position. Does Grant Denyer do the big Hail Mary down into turn 10 or 11 or indeed 12 or try a drag race to the line? That's what's left in this story, because Ryan Simpson has come to the line. He's taken the flag and taken second place for this race again today.
Got enough to get on the back of Kyle Orford with 2 turns to go. Oh no, it's not going to happen. It's going to be a Lotus 1, 2, 3, one would think. As they bring around, a fantastic finish for the BMW. But the Lotus holds on to take third. So the Denyer D'Alberto Lotus in first, Policina and Simpson in second, and the Orford boys bring their Lotus home in third place. Ian Sherrin fourth, Lockie Gibbons in the 66, bringing that home in for fifth, with Dimitri Agathos taking the spot off Beric Linton in the end. They drop down to 6th place. That could affect the championship, quite interestingly. Thomas Muller down in 7th, Dominic Martins 8th, Scott Turner and Chris Lillis making up our last 2 spots in the top 10.
Well, we go to Sydney Motorsport Park with this series for their second last round. And we've got that 6-hour race at the end of the year at Phillip Island, the first weekend in November. Make sure you get down there for that one. These guys will definitely be at Sydney Motorsport Park in 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time for that, the 21st, 22nd, 23rd of September for the final round of the 2018 Shannons Nationals. Brad Woods came home in 11th place. Blake Orban home in 12th place. Matt Thulis in the Mini JCW home in 13th. Chem Yusel, really good drive to push that old Nissan Pulsar home to 14th place, and a really good class result. Just a short stint today after a long run at it yesterday, as we go down to Victory Lane with Cameron Van Aken.
Grant Denyer, we thought you were going to do a driver change, but you double stinted, mate. A long, hot day for you, but congratulations.
Not by choice. My highly paid gun of a supercar co-driver didn't want to get in. cheeky monkey. So I did the whole thing myself. Yeah, look, we thought there might be a bit of advantage. We had good pace, and you lose, 20 seconds doing a driver change. And Tony thought I was doing such a good job I should stay out there. I don't know if I feel that way now, but it was good. Yeah, it was the Lotus was absolutely on rails. But I was just working hard at the end to try and make sure I didn't blow a tyre because they're fairly blistered now. So that's a good feeling.
Let's head down to Greg Russ with our podium presentation.
Third outright for the weekend, Kyle Orford and Tony Orford, ladies and gentlemen. Put your hands together. I think Tony's already ventured to the airport. Second here, Ryan Simpson and Jim Policina. And a mighty drive by Grant Denyer today, but you've got to look at the performance right across the weekend. Congratulations, Tony D'Alberto and Grant Denyer. Gentlemen, the champagne is yours.